Welcome back to Roll the Table. This is the second part in our series of looking at the 2024 Player's Handbook and which rules are the best and easiest to add to our 2014 games. Now, that could be if you're just trying to add rules in slowly, or if you don't really feel like switching over completely, but feel like a few small updates added to your game. Again, just my requirements for this is it's got to be something that's not overly complicated, that you won't need the book for, or it won't completely throw off the balance of the game. In order to qualify this, these are easy, simple quality of life improvements that you can add to a game that aren't going to cause somebody to have to totally redo their whole character sheet. So let's go ahead. The first part was on classes. If you missed that video, I'll try to link that video to this one. And this video is going to be focused on our races. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to start with the Dragonborn. They have an improved breath weapon that's even different than the ones that we just saw in Monsters of the Multiverse. Instead of replacing their whole attack action, now it only replaces one attack. So if you have a fighter with this breath weapon, a Dragonborn fighter, and they start getting their multi-attack, they can breath weapon and then go in and try to finish off whoever's left with the same attack action now. And they can also choose each time that they fire off their breath weapon whether to do a line or a cone. If it's a 15-foot line, a 15-foot cone, or a 30-foot straight line, whichever is best for the situation. And they also changed the damage type, the damage die, instead of 2d6 to 1d10, but it increases as they level up, which added to a lot of the races, which I really like, is that as you become a higher level Dragonborn, your breath weapon scales with you. And those increases are going to come at level 5, level 11, and a level 17. And then instead of only having one use per day, as in the 2014 rules, and the 2024s, it's the same number as their proficiency bonus. So it'll scale up as your proficiency bonus goes up. You're starting with 2, and then goes up to 3, and so on, along with the proficiency bonus. But they regain all their uses on a long rest now. I know some versions of the breath weapon had it regaining on a short rest, but that's when they only had one a day. So now, I think in the long run, they're going to end up with getting a lot more uses, unless you run a table with your table's running a lot of short rests. They're going to end up with more uses with this version. Being a heavy dwarf player, when I do get a chance to play, this is one of my favorite changes, is they actually made stone cutting useful for dwarves. In the 2014 rules, it was very niche and very rarely came up. In all of my years of playing 5e, I've seen it both playing as a player and as a DM. I've seen it used twice, and that's over many years, over many different campaigns. Where this new one, I'm pretty sure it's going to come up pretty regularly. Anytime that you're in a dungeon, or possibly even in a town or a sewer setting. So what it is it gives them a form of Tremor Sense as a bonus action. It goes out 60 feet for 10 minutes, but they must be on a stone surface, and whoever they're seeing must be on a stone surface. And it scales with proficiency bonus as well, so it makes it easy to track. I like it when they tie it right into proficiency bonus, easy peasy, and then regain it on a long rest. There's a lot of other things change about dwarves. There's no longer 2 different subclasses, but save that for when you completely go full into 2024 rules. Again, these are just rules that you can pick out and pluck in and drop right into your 2014 games without too much hassle. So again, it's a tremor sense 60 feet for 10 minutes if they're on a stone surface. So that would mean if they're in a dungeon with a stone floor in a mine somewhere and around the corner or even behind a door, if there's zombies pacing around and moving around, that's going to trigger the door's tremor sense. And also like that it lasts for 10 minutes. That allows them to get through a few combats and through a few rooms through the dungeon. It's not just the one and done type use. For elves, the elves kept all three of their different races, or their species now, not races, but all their different styles of elf. I don't even know how they want to. They're not subclasses or subraces anymore. But drow, I'm pretty sure you've heard that, most likely heard by now, that they got rid of sunlight sensitivity. Probably the best quality of life improvement. Other than that, they get the same type of spells and cantrips and everything, but they kind of went with that theme for all of the elves now. So your high elf, you're still getting prestidigitation, but they can replace that on a long rest with a different wizard cantrip. So that kind of gives them that, like, oh yeah, I knew that once upon a time. Let me think about that for a little bit. I remember how to do that. That gives that long life, longevity, elf feel to it. I think I like that flavor. Then at level 3, they get Detect Magic, and levels 5, they get Misty Step. All very useful spells. The Wood Elves, very themed for the Wood Elves, but not nearly as good of the spells. But they can get the Druidcraft cantrip, and then at level 3, the Longstrider, and level 5, Pass Without a Trace. Now, Pass Without a Trace is a good one. The other two, not so much. For halflings and gnomes, they stayed very similar. Not too much changing them. A little changing in the wording of some of the stuff and clarifying stuff up so it makes more sense reading it. But the biggest changes from them that would be easy to drop in and add is let them keep up with the rest of the party. They now have a 30-foot movement. For human, their biggest change is they are now resourceful. As humans, as the vermin of the earth and spreading everywhere that we are, they're resourceful. So they automatically start their day off after a long rest with inspiration. So they get up and they're inspired to go out and conquer the world. So if you have a human, give them this trait, and that way that after the first time or two, they're like, oh, I ended the day with inspiration. That was silly. I should have spent it. I'm going to get a new one in the morning. Then they'll start to remember to use that inspiration a little bit more, especially if you implement some of the other rules about the change in inspiration that we're going to go over and our general rules videos. So it makes it more useful and more opportunities for them to use it. And lastly, with Tiefling, it's kind of hard to get around this one being a little bit complicated, and but they expanded to have different options instead of just the typical Infernal one that we have now. They added Chthonic and Abyssal as other options to choose. They bumped Thaumaturgy out cantrip, so all three know that cantrip no matter which one you're taking. The Infernal, for the most part, stayed the same, the typical one as that you see in the 2014 rulebook. They get the fire damage, they get Hellish Rebuke and Darkness. But these other two would then replace your Infernal Legacy and your Hellish Resistance as it's stated in the 2014 rulebook. And this table is found on page 197 of the 2024 rulebook. But Abyssal, you get resistance to poison, the poison spray cantrip, Ray of Sickness for your level 3 spell, and Whole Person for your level 5 spell. And the Chthonic, you get resistance to Necrotic, that true evil demonish feel to it. And they get the Chill Touch cantrip. And level 3, they get False Life. And level 5, Rate of Enfeeblement. And let me give you a... Oh, that was not good. Little view of that table, since that is a lot. Again, that's page 197. So that is all of the easy changes to the races, which are now called species in the 2024 rulebook. And our next video will be on general rules. I hope to see you there. And I hope you have luck rolling your table.